let's use some SQL injection. Now, I don't expect you to understand SQL syntax, although if you know a tiny bit, it helps. And you should probably on the side study SQL. SQL, of course, is the language used to query relational databases such as MySQL, Microsoft SQL, Oracle SQL, ANSI SQL, that kind of thing. Their syntax is largely the same across the different versions, although there are some variations. The one we're going to attack uses MySQL. With some variations, you can use it on other databases as well. You need to make sure that you have Metasploitable and Windows 8 started up. You log into both. Log into Metasploitable as MSFadmin, enter ifconfig to get the IP address, go to Windows 8, log in as admin with the password of capital PA $W0RD, open a browser, put in the IP address of Metasploitable, and then when you get there, click DVWA. So what you're going to do is we're going to issue a number of SQL commands, and I'm going to discuss them as we go. So here are a number of SQL commands. You should be able to just copy and paste them from this little text file. You can also just see them here in your activity reference as well. So I'm going to comment on these as we go. So let's get started here. I'm going to have this little text file handy. Some of these are quite long. This is why copy paste is our friend. So I have opened a browser in Windows 8, and I'm just going to go to the IP address of Metasploitable 192.168.75.131 in my case. Yours might be different. Then click on DVWA. It actually stands for something, as you can see. One thing you need to do, if it's prompting you to log out, let me just log out. If you see this right here, you log in as admin, and the password is password. And they even say down here, the password is password. So the password is password, lowercase, log in. Now, when you're at this page, what you want to do is you want to make the security low. This is a wonderful learning tool. You can do a bunch of things on it, and we're going to try other things as well. So what you do is you come down to DVWA security, and you click that. And you make sure that the security level is set to low, and you click submit. Okay, with that, now go to the SQL injection button on the left. Go to SQL injection. And let's bring up these SQL statements here, and I want to talk about each one. Now, the purpose of this is meant to be just a very, very simple web app, and it's supposed to make a select statement and return some kind of result. We don't know yet what the select statement is. We don't know. We're going into this blind. But you're supposed to supply a user ID, and it's supposed to give you information back. So we're going to click in here, and we're going to just guess that the user ID is number 1. And we're going to click submit. Sure enough, if the user ID is number 1, which is what you put in, it gives you a first name and a surname. What's for user ID number 2? We'll just put in 2, press enter. Oh, ID number 2 is Gordon Brown. Okay, that's good. How about user number 3? That's Hack Me. Gotta love these guys. User number 4, Pablo Picasso. Okay, they've got a sense of humor. All right, so what we've done is we've tried just entering various user IDs here. We've tried just 1, 2, 3, etc. Is there any? Well, unfortunately, with Notepad, I can't zoom in. So what I'm going to do, just real quick so you can see a little better, because these are awfully small, I'm going to put this into a text file that I can zoom into. I'm not going to copy from that text file. One of the problems is that I have encountered with SQL injection is that, okay, so here I'm zooming in a little better. You can see it a little bit better. One of the problems is that sometimes the characters don't translate properly. So let me just zoom in a little better, just as I talk about these. I'm not going to copy and paste from this in case the characters don't translate properly, especially the backtick and the single quote. So we've done like user 1, 2, 3. We can do 4, 5, etc. We don't know how many users there are. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to just put in a single quote. Single quote, not a backtick, a single quote. We're going to do this one. What this does, and we still don't know what the query is behind this. We don't know what the code is behind this little file here. I mean, this little, we don't know what the SQL statement is behind this little field, rather, not file. But if you put in a single quote, just a single quote, what you're doing there is you are forcing SQL to treat this as the beginning of a text string. Because in SQL, we surround text strings with quotes, typically single quotes. You can do double quotes in some cases, but it's usually done as a single quote. So what you've done is you've opened a text string and you've left it wide open, and it's going to return an error. And the reason that we want that will become apparent. So click Submit. And when you click Submit, we have an error message here. Let me see if I can zoom in so you can just kind of see it. I'm just going to zoom in a bit, and I'm going to scroll. You have an error in your SQL syntax. Check the manual that corresponds to your MySQL server version. Okay, MySQL server version for the right syntax to use near at line 1. All right, so here's the thing. We now know that this is a MySQL, not a Microsoft SQL, not an Oracle SQL, not an ANSI SQL, not a Sybase SQL. It is a MySQL. That gets us a lot closer to the syntax we really need to use. Now, the different kinds of error messages, it'll depend upon the database, but this one, by default, told us that it is a MySQL database. So I'm going to hit the back button, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit so that you can see what I'm putting in here. So anyway, so we know. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do an actual SQL injection statement here. SQL injection is based around a very simple premise. It's just how you implement it that becomes a little tricky. The premise is you put in a SQL statement that is an OR statement. One of the two things on either side of the OR has to be true. The other one does not need to be true. So this is an OR statement. So either this is true or this is true. Now, don't mind the quotes here, okay? This % sign is not likely to be true or match anything in a database. So this is going to end up being a false statement. But 1 equals 1, yeah, that's a true statement. 1 equals 1, 1 always equals 1. 0 equals 0. You could say 5 equals 5, 1 equals 1, 0 equals 0, something that is a true statement. And I have toggled, I think, back and forth between 1 is 1, 1 equals 1, and 0 equals 0. Most SQL injection just uses 1 equals 1. Anyway, so the fact that one of these is true means now execute something. So we're going to copy and paste this in there. I'm going to copy, see if I can get away with this. And this only because it's big and you can see it. If the font doesn't translate properly, I'll have to go to my little text file here, but I'd rather use the big one just because it's easier for us to see. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to paste it. I'm just going to right click and I'm going to paste as plain text, and I'm going to hit submit. Okay, it worked. We basically said from whatever the query is, and we still don't know what the query is, but the query somehow is formulated in a way to give us two things, the first name and the last name. And we had a false statement and a true statement. The true statement triggered give us the first record. And look, it went on and it gave us the second record, and it gave us the third record and the fourth record and the fifth record. So we can see that this first record is admin. Now, by the way, out of curiosity, if we just put in 1 here, we can see, okay, record number 1 is admin, all right? And if we paste in that same thing that we just did, record number 2 should be Gordon. So if we put in 2 and press enter, sure enough, record number 2 is Gordon. And let's paste in the next one. And record number 3 is Hack Me. Very cute. So ID number 3, yep, it is Hack Me, etc. Okay, great. So we know that the query is supposed to return a first name and a last name. And we also know that it has at least 3 columns in the table. It'll have an ID column, a first name column, and a surname column. Now, these might not be the true column names. The true column names might be something slightly different. These might just be formatted to give you a certain output look. But the column names could be like F name or first underscore name or something like that. And then the output is simply formatted to look a certain way. We're going to find out in just a moment. So we've done a SQL statement to basically go through and return the whatever the query asks for all the way through the whole table. And it gave us 5 records. Did I count them right? Yeah, 5 records. Cool. Okay, so now let's try something else. If you've studied SQL, you know what a union is. A union basically takes the output of 2 tables and puts them together into one result. Now we know the first table has a query that is the code behind this thing that is going to give us 2 things, the first name and the last name, based on some ID number you put in. So what we're doing here is we're saying, and now we're just doing a shortcut. We're not even bothering with the percent sign. We're just saying single quote. And you know, you can even shortcut it and just put in single quote. You could put in this whole thing and then the rest of this, or you could just put in single quote. We're just going to put in single quote just to shortcut it. So we're now saying this, the result of this, union, the result of this statement right here. Now, select is the standard SQL statement for please read and return to me something. @ version is a very common what we call global variable. It basically, and this works in both MySQL and Microsoft SQL and Oracle SQL. If you say select @ version, it will tell you the version of the database, because that'll give us clues as to the kinds of syntax we can continue to use. So we're basically saying not only go down this line, but combine the results with @ version. Now, the way it turns out is kind of interesting. Oh, by the way, this # or hashtag means any SQL past that, just comment it out and don't process. So it'll help prevent unnecessary errors. So I'm going to highlight and I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it in here and we're going to see what happens. Submit. Okay, now this is interesting. The used select statements have a different number of columns. Why is that? Well, we happen to know from before that when we just force the query to run, or even if we just put in an actual user ID like 1, we know that we get 2 columns back. We know that we get 2 columns back based on this number that we put in. We know the table has 3 columns, but we know that the query based on this is giving us 2 columns back. Select @ version is only 1 column. It's not 2 columns. So we're going to kind of fix this. We're going to, instead of just saying select @ version and trying to match up a 2-column result with a 1-column result, which won't work, we're going to just put in some number here as the first column and then the second column. So let's try this. And this way the 2 will match. Let's copy. So now we have 2 queries that each return 2 columns. So the ID, this is our SQL statement, and you can see the first name, 1, which is what we've picked, and then the second is the version. So this is Ubuntu 5. This is, we can look this up. This is MySQL 5.0.51a on 3 on Ubuntu 5. Now, what if we tried 3 of them? We already know that this original statement here gives us 2 columns back. But what if we said 1, 2, and then a third one? What if we did that? What kind of error message would we get? I'm just going to paste it in and submit. And it says, the select statements have a different number of columns. So it's not, this is not 1 column based on trying to match it up with that. It is not 3 columns based on trying to match it up with this. It is 2 columns, which we already knew, but we verified that by matching up with that. Okay, fine. Now, when you are flying blind and you're not sure, you could one by one keep adding 1, 2, 3, etc. until you hit just the right number, or you can take a shortcut. And the shortcut is to just say select null. Null means don't select anything. I don't care if there's something there or not. And the beauty of null is that it doesn't matter the data type either. So it doesn't matter if the data types match, don't match, we don't care. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do this shortcut. Regardless of whether there's a match or not in the number of columns, whether there's a match in the data type, don't care. Let's go back to this. Let me just get rid of this stuff, paste this. And so you can see the first one is a null, there's no value, but the second one is the at version like we asked for. Now, by the way, at version works with a variety of versions of SQL, including MySQL. MySQL also has a version function. You can tell it's a function because it has like that open and closed parentheses there. It will give you the same thing. So you can either add at version or version function, either one. So if we copy and paste this one, we're going to get the same result. I don't remember, I don't think Microsoft SQL has this function. Press enter. Okay, our query is a little different. The end result is the same. Cool. And of course, going back to our old full syntax of the SQL injection, we could do this very same thing, but instead of just the single quote, we could have this whole statement, and then the rest is the same. And I'm just going to show you that it works. It's just extra typing. Press enter. Now, the only thing that happens here is that this one went all the way down the line to every single result, and then at the very bottom gave us what we sought. Whereas this one just cuts to the chase. Okay, so, and we're not going to waste our time with this. We're just going to go straight to the heart of the matter here, unless we feel the need to just see all the records. So now let's take a look at this. We want to union the result of this normal select statement, whatever it is, and I'm willing to bet it's something like select first name, comma, last name from some table. We want to now try to find out, we found out the version of SQL. Let's see if we can find the host name. Let's find out. So there's a global variable called at hostname. Let's see if we can identify the name of the computer that this database is sitting on. Now, we actually know the name of the computer because we logged into it. And this one, we went down the line. Oh, this is version. Whoops, I didn't copy it. Sorry. I thought that doesn't look right. Okay, I'm doing the union with select null at hostname. Okay, so let me just get rid of this other stuff. Don't need this stuff here. I want to put in the new statement. Control V, paste, submit. Aha, the name is Metasploitable, but we knew that already, but only because we're doing this kind of white box, so we knew it was Metasploitable. Is there a hostname function? Just kind of like there's an at version global variable and a version function gives us the same thing. Is there a hostname function? Let's go find out. So I'm going to copy this and put this in here. I'm going to hit submit. No. This particular database does not have a function called hostname. Okay, so this one here doesn't work. This one does, but there is no such thing as hostname function. There's a version function, but not a hostname function. Okay, that's fine. All right, how about this one? Can you guess what this is going to give us? If you said, tell us the database that we're in, you're right. So we want to find out, this is a database function, please give us the name of the database. The current database, the one we're in right now, this database. And we can pretty much guess what this database is because it's got a little logo up here, but you never know that for sure. That little logo could be anything. So let's try to find the database function. Aha, the database truly is named DVWA. Okay, good to know. All right, what else can we do? Okay, we're working our way up to getting the password, I promise. So in this case, let's try to get schema name from information_schema.schemata. What we're actually doing is we're trying to find out the structure of the whole thing. What this statement actually will do is on MySQL, on that particular version of MySQL, what was it, 5.05 something, it will give us, well, let's just find out. I'm going to copy the whole thing, Control C, and I'm going to paste it in here, and let's find out what it gives us. Let's see, information_schema, DVWA, Metasploit, MySQL, OWASP 10, TikiWiki 195. You know what? Those look like database names. And you're right. This is actually a query of this to give us database names. All the databases, not just the one we're currently in, but all of them, the whole list. All right. By default, we're in DVWA, but this was a list of all the databases in the whole server. Okay, now what do you think this is going to give us? If you said it's going to give us the name of the current user, you're right. So then what do you think this is? What do you think the user function versus system_user function is? This one is the database user. This one is the system user. Because you see, database servers, just like any other service, log in as something. They have to log in somehow. So how is this database, or what is the context, I should say, that we are running this under? Under what user account are we even running these queries? And then the system user is, who is the user that's logged on to the operating system? Let's find out. So I'm going to find out the database user. This is really useful when we want to try to log in as different people and get information we're not supposed to get. Oh ho, the name of the database user is root at localhost. It's powerful. Okay, how about the system user? Who's logged on to the operating system? You can probably guess, but we need to validate. So let's go back and let's find out who the operating system user is. Same person, root at localhost is logged into both the operating system and the database DVWA. Okay, now here, check this out. We could do a union all. Now union all means put several things together. We could union all select both of those functions, the OS user and the database user, and there's no need to say null because null made up for the fact that we didn't have the same number of columns. But here we will. We'll have one column and then two columns, which will match. So we're going to union all of this with the original SQL statement. Okay, let's copy this and let's put this in. Enter. Aha, so this is just a quick and dirty way of saying who is the operating system user and the database user. And so it's in that order, the operating system user and the database user. Okay, but we already did it in single statements. All right, let's go on to the next one. We're going to match up mismatched columns. We want to get the table name from information_schema.tables. This is actually the name of a table. So we want to find out all the tables in this database. Think that's useful? Sure. Because we want to find out a table for credit cards or for users or something else that's juicy. So let's copy this whole thing. Please dump all the table names for us out of the DVWA database. Let's submit this. There's a table called character sets, collations, collation character set applicability, I think, is that what it is? Columns, column privileges, key column usage, profiling, routines, schemata, schema privileges, statistics tables, table constraints, table privileges, triggers, user privileges, views, guestbook. Ding, 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 ding. Users. I think we want that. A lot of this stuff, like user privileges, that's sort of like housekeeping. Column privileges, but I think users, that might be the table we want. Other these: help category, help keyword, help relation, help target, host, I don't know, process, users. I think users is the one we want. So table users. Is there a table called credit cards by any chance? Is a table called accounts? Is a table called user? Oh, there's a table called credit cards. That's interesting. I wonder. So, okay. So what we're going to do, we know that there is credit underscore cards, there's users, there's accounts. Some interesting stuff here. Okay, so let's take a look here. Union, select null table name from information schema tables. Okay, now instead of giving us the whole damn thing, let's see if we can. So, table schema. Let's see if we can find anything where the schema is OWASP 10 as opposed to DVWA. And then we're going to try, user. Okay, so let's see, union select null table name from information schema table. How about Control C? Let's see if, is there anything similar, and I'm sorry, I was saying users. These table name, yeah, no. What else do we have? Hang on, I'm going to scroll through here. Function, guest book. Yeah, these look like tables. Statistics, yeah, these look like tables here. These look like tables. Okay, let's go back. Let's try this. Okay, these are the tables of the OWASP 10 database. Blogs, captured data, credit cards. Yeah, OWASP 10 has a credit cards also. Hit log, pen test tools. How about, what are the tables for DVWA? Let's find out. The tables of guest book and users. Okay, so it looks like if we didn't specify, it looks like we got tables from all the various databases. Yeah, it sure seemed like we had a lot of tables. But if we specify here where table schema equals OWASP 10 or DVWA, we're looking for tables of just that. Okay, so there's a users table. Now that's particularly interesting. We do want that. We know credit card came from OWASP 10. Okay, but users table, that comes from DVWA. So let's keep on going after that. All right, we could also, I just want to show you this syntax here. Let's see if I can spread out here a bit. And I might have to scroll even still. Remember this from a long time ago, 10 minutes ago, well, maybe half hour ago. This was the longer way to write the simple single quote. And then select null table name from information schema tables, where table name, instead of equals, we're saying like. So if we don't know if it's exactly DVWA, we could say like DVWA or like user. Maybe, we saw that there's a table named users, but what if it's user or usernames or something like that? So we use, instead of equals something specific, like see this, where table name equals something very specific, we say where table name is like, meaning similar or close to. But if we do that, we have to have a wildcard. So we're saying a table name that starts with the word user. So that's what we're saying here. So give me all tables where the table name is user something. That's what we're doing here. So let's go over here and let's try that. And of course we're doing it obviously in, oh, I didn't copy it properly. Let me copy this. I pasted in the old thing. Okay, so let me, no. Get rid of this, get rid of this. Paste in the new one. Give me tables that start with user something. Okay, there's user privileges, users, users group permissions, users groups, users object permissions. Okay, so it's either users or user, but probably users is the one we want. All right. So now let's get, we said where the table name is like user something. Let's try users. We should just get a single result here. We've already seen it, but in case we were flying blind and we didn't already know, yep, there is a users table. Is there a user table? Yes, we know that there is because we asked for all of them. Oh, I obviously mistyped something. You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to, well, it's the hard part is copying and pasting in here. I accidentally got rid of the hashtag. So let me just go back. User, close quote, hashtag. And so, yeah, there's a user table and a users table. Okay, now life is getting more interesting. Let's get some output and let's put the output together. The term concat means concatenate. In other words, put several things together, several strings together. So we're going to concatenate the table name, and then this 0x0a is just means a new line or a carriage return. And then a column name. So give us the table name and then the column name with a carriage return, or a new line actually, technically, from the information schema.columns, where the table name is users. Because I want to know the table name. I want to know tables and columns. So let's find out. Let's copy this whole thing. Come over here. Paste this puppy in. Hope I pasted it correctly. Okay. So the users table has user ID. And the users table has first name. And the users table has last name. These are columns inside the users table. And the users table has user. So there's user ID, first name, last name, user, and password, and then a little picture of them, a little avatar. So we don't want user ID because that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like what we put in before. But we might want the first name or the last name. User, I'll bet user refers to the login, because password is next. I mean, we don't know that until we validate, but that's what it looks like. Okay, so now let's get the first name, new line, last name, new line, user, meaning we think the login, and then password. Let's do that. Copy, Control C. See if this gives us what we want. Paste. Okay, I didn't paste it properly because I'm getting an error message. Let me go back. Make sure from users. Let me make sure this is correct. Select null concat from users. Okay, let's see if this is, let me just try this again. Okay, there's a slight error here. And it looks like this back tick, there's nothing wrong with that. So if we go over here from users, maybe we're not specific enough about users. Maybe we have to pick, let's see, select null. Maybe we need to say union select null. So let's see here, because we're always saying union something. Let's try union select null. Because we've got union select null everywhere else. It looks like maybe we're missing the word union. Here's where our SQL helps us. And again, I don't expect you to know SQL right here, but it's useful to take a SQL class later. Let's just try it with the word union. Okay, good. We were missing the word union. Okay, so it's first name, last name. This looks like a logon name, and this is a password hash. I'll bet it's MD5 because that's very typical. Okay, so the logon of admin has a password hash of that. Gordon B has this password hash. I don't know if we care about Gordon. Hack me. Leet. How cute. How very cute. That's L-E-E-T. Elite. And that's the password hash for Leet. Public Picasso. Okay. I think the one we want is this one right here. The username admin and the hash of whatever that is. Yeah. Okay, with that in mind, you know what we're going to do? We're going to right click and we're going to copy this right now. And we're going to have it handy. Right click and I'm going to create a new, just a text file. Don't make a Word document or anything that's going to muck up the characters. Just a plain old text file. All right, I'm going to save this and just have it handy. And let's just try some others. Let's get the user and the password without the first name, last name. Okay, so let's copy this, Control C. Let's come into here, Control V, paste. And sure enough, it's just admin with that hash, which is the password hash. Of course, passwords are not being stored in plain text. That would be really, really bad. Terrible design. But if we've got the hash, there are online places and password cracking tools, and we have copied and pasted the hash nice and handy. One other little thing we can do for the fun of it, we could try another global variable called datager, which basically just tells us the path of the database. Just in case we want to steal the whole database at some point. Control C, paste this in, submit. And this is indeed in Linux, but we knew that from Metasploitable. It's in var lib mysql. That's where the database is kept. Okay. So now you want to get really crazy? Why not use the load file command to try to read the Etsy password file? Why not? Let's do this. Hey, we're logged in as root. See if we have the right to read it. Oh, rockin', look at that. We now know all of the users in the operating system. Who do we have? Tomcat, MySQL, ProFTPD, Moo, Sue, Sally, Karen, bunch of people. All right. Now, your Metasploitable might not have exactly the same people because I reuse this image for various classes, but you're going to see a bunch. So I now see a whole bunch of users. What about, can we read Etsy Shadow where the password hashes are? These are operating system. This one up here gave us the password in the database. We're trying to now get passwords in the operating system. Let's just give it a shot. Who knows? Okay, we got nothing. We got nothing. You know what? That meant that there were restrictions on it, and even the root account was not allowed to just go ahead and do that. Okay, that's fine. So let's go back to the same thing that we ran a little bit earlier. That's this one up here. And we're going to just run it again. And just in case you didn't quite get a copy of the admin and the password, I want you to do that. Make a copy of it, put it in a text file, just a notepad file. Keep it handy because you're going to want it later. And that is some pretty cool SQL injection. We had no business getting the kinds of information that we did, but thanks to our old friend DVWA, we were able to do quite a bit of good SQL injection.